3 bone-chilling true stories that haunt your first day on the job never told. It was supposed to be an ordinary Monday morning. The screw of the office door creaked open, and Sarah stepped inside, ready for what she thought was just a new job. But the air was thick, like a storm waiting to break. Shadows seemed to whisper secrets of the past, and the flickering fluorescent lights cast eerie shapes on the walls. Little did she know, this first day would be anything but ordinary. As she settled in, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her. The office was weirdly quiet, save for the distant hum of the coffee machine. Suddenly, a photo fell off the wall behind her, a picture of a smiling group from some long-forgotten team. No one had mentioned them. Who were they? And why did the eyes of that one man in the corner look so hollow? Sarah felt a shiver crawl up her spine. Just then, a colleague, Mike, rushed by. His face was pale, eyes wide with anxiety. "Don't take the basement stairs," he warned in a hushed voice, glancing over his shoulder as if the walls themselves might listen. "Trust me, you'll regret it." The words hung heavy in the air. Why would he say that? What lay hidden beneath the office? It was too much. Sarah needed answers, but first, a crushing sense of urgency gripped her. Fear danced in her chest. She couldn't let it go. Her curiosity clawed at her mind like an itch she couldn't scratch. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." The clock ticked louder now, and time felt like it was slipping away. Sarah decided to investigate. She could feel the pulse of the unseen secrets underneath her feet as she walked toward the stairwell. Each step echoed with dread. Would she find answers or madness? The basement door loomed, rusted and locked, its silence screaming for attention. What would she discover in the darkness? A flash of memories flickered in her mind, the anxious expressions of her coworkers, the air heavy with unspoken horrors. And just as her hand reached for the cold metal of the doorknob, she heard it, a distant whisper, calling her name. Was it from inside or somewhere deeper? The mystery swirled like a storm inside her, drawing her closer. What lay in wait beneath those stairs? The air thickened as Sarah's fingers brushed the cold doorknob. Her heart raced, a frantic drumbeat in the silence. She took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage before twisting the knob. It creaked open, revealing a dimly lit stairwell descending into darkness. A chill raced down her spine, but her feet moved instinctively forward, propelled by something beyond her understanding. With each step down, the air felt heavier, pressing against her like a tangible presence. The faint scent of mildew filled her nostrils as she reached the bottom. Bare concrete walls inched into view, absorbing the light like shadows. She hesitated, acutely aware of the cold sweat that clung to her palms. Was it really wise to be here? Yet the whisper echoed again, this time clearer, more insistent. "Sarah," the voice wrapped around her like an embrace, both inviting and terrifying. What if it's just my imagination, she thought, but the urge to press forward tightened its grip on her. Peering into the gloom, she saw shapes sprawled across the floor. A flickering overhead light cast enough glow to reveal stacks of old files and forgotten furniture, remnants of a time long past. As she stepped farther inside, something caught her eye, an object half buried under a tattered tarp. Her heart skipped a beat. It glimmered in the light, something that shouldn't belong in such a place. She approached slowly, her heart pounding loudly in her ears. Pulling back the tarp revealed a dusty, tarnished mirror. It looked ancient, with ornate carvings running along its edges, faded images of people she couldn't recognize. The surface was warped, skewing her reflection in a haunting way. Just then, a loud noise echoed from behind her, a clatter of metal. Sarah whirled around, breath hitching in her throat. Dark shapes danced in the corners of her vision, but she brushed it off as remnants of her overactive imagination. "Get a grip, Sarah," she muttered to herself, trying to steady her shaking hands, but doubt gnawed at her, and she fixed her gaze back on the mirror. The air grew colder, and fear compressed her chest. In the glass, she saw movement faint, flickering images of the smiling team in that old photograph upstairs. Their faces morphed into twisted expressions, accusations etched into their features. "Help us," they seemed to plead, their voices entwined with the low hum of the basement's silence. The sensation of being watched intensified. She felt it against the back of her neck, prickling her skin. This was no ordinary office closed for the night, it was a realm where echoes of anguish and regret bled into reality. The whispers melded into a single, anguished cry, a desperate call for salvation. "Leave or stay, decide now." The voice vibrated in the air, simultaneously echoing fear and promise. Sarah took a step back, her mind spinning. What was real? What lay beyond the mirror? Did she dare believe any of it? The nightmarish atmosphere flowed around her, tightening its grip like a vice. She felt entrapped, as if the basement itself was alive, demanding her decision. With her heart thudding violently, she reached out for the mirror's frame. It felt warm, pulsing as if it had life. What if this was the key? What if the answer to her questions lay within that glassy surface? Yet the more she hesitated, the more she sensed the darkness creeping in. What choice would Sarah make? The urge to uncover the truth warred with the instinct to run. As shadows loomed closer, she could almost sense the spirits of the long-forgotten, caught between worlds, their fate intertwined with hers. Suddenly, the lights flickered and the whispers crescendoed. With one final push of courage, she leaned closer to the mirror, realizing she stood on the precipice of a revelation that could change everything. But what truth awaited her on the other side? As she teetered at the edge, a sudden crash resounded from the stairwell, forcing her to confront whatever shadows lay waiting. What would happen next? The crash reverberated through the basement, slicing through the tension that hung like fog. Sarah's breath caught, punctuating the silence with a shaky gasp. The sound seemed to propel her forward just as much as it instilled panic. What or who was up there? Goosebumps crawled up her arms, and she fought the urge to flee. Instead, her eyes darted back to the mirror. The warped reflection now shifted from disturbing to enticing. It whispered again, almost sweetly, "Stay just a little longer." The pull was overwhelming, like a siren song. As she pondered her next step, the flickering light overhead cast ominous shadows that slid like ghosts across the walls. Uncertainty consumed her. Could she really trust what she saw? Was it longing for truth or simply the lure of danger? Suddenly, the clatter from the staircase broke her reverie. It was loud again, like something heavy had fallen. Was it something or someone who had come down? Eyes wide, Sarah mentally counted the options as her heart thudded relentlessly. She could confront the unknown above her or succumb to the temptation of the mirror. The whispers from the mirror intensified, warning and inviting. They danced around her thoughts, almost merging with her own fears. "They need your help, don't you want to know?" The faces in the glass were contorted with desperation, pulling her closer, urging her to take that final step over the threshold, but the chaos above wouldn't let her. Shadows shifted in her peripheral, and she could almost feel the weight of eyes boring into her back. Voices muttered and murmured in the darkness surrounding her, unintelligible yet soaked with sorrow and longing. "Help us," they repeated, their voices a blend of hope and despair, echoing through the basement. It was maddening reality slipping through her fingers. Then, as if the universe swung into action, the overhead light shattered in a shower of bright sparks, plunging the room into near darkness. Panic surged through her. The mirror began to glow faintly, illuminating the faces trapped within, heat radiating from its boundaries. They looked at her, pleading and terrified. Her instincts kicked in. She dashed towards the stairwell, ready to confront whatever terror awaited her above. Heart racing, she braced herself against the cold concrete wall, breathing hard. The air felt electric, charged with unease. She peered into the darkness, dreading what she might, or might not, see. Who's there? She shouted into the obscurity, praying for an answer but fearing it too. Silence responded, heavy and suffocating, until the sound of gravel crunching broke the stillness. A figure emerged, tall and shadowy, its features indistinct. Every instinct screamed for her to run, but her legs felt rooted to the ground. Sarah, the voice was low, like a whispered secret carried on the wind. But it didn't belong to anyone she recognized. A rush of adrenaline spurred her into action. She glanced back at the mirror one last time, torn. The faces were now grim, contorted with fear for her. Should she trust this dark entity, or did she dare abandon the reflection's call? Before she could make a choice, a hand shot out from the shadows, reaching for her. The moment held its breath. "Help us," they echoed again, as the basement thrummed with chilling anticipation. In that split second, Sarah's mind raced with possibilities. Was this the end of her search, or had she unwittingly uncovered something darker? As she felt the cold grip of the unknown inching closer, she had to make a choice. The choice that would determine her fate. Would she grasp the figure's hand and confront the secrets of the past, or would she run to escape the haunting that promised to follow her into the light? A surge of fear shot through her as she stood on the edge of revelation and dread. What truth lay waiting for her? Whatever it was, it would change everything. Would she dare to unveil the specters that beckoned? The air crackled with tension as Sarah stood frozen, pulse quickening, the darkness around her pulsating like a living thing. Something in that soft whisper felt so familiar, yet utterly wrong. Sarah, it felt as if the name itself was a trap, drawing her toward the unknown, pulling at her very essence. Her instincts screamed for her to run, but could she? An invisible force grazed her skin, the chill wrapping around her like a smothering blanket. Gathering her breath, she dared to take a step closer to the figure. "Who are you?" she managed to choke out, struggling against the tightness in her throat. "I'm here to help you," the shadow responded. It stepped into the weak glow of the remaining light from the shattered bulb, and Sarah's heart pounded like a war drum. The figure was unmistakably a woman, her face pale and haunting. Dressed in faded clothes that fluttered like gauzy memories, she looked heart-wrenchingly familiar. Sarah's stomach twisted. It was the same face she'd seen in the mirror, a girl from another time, perhaps another life. "Why are you here?" Sarah's whispered question hung heavily in the air, layered with curiosity and dread. "Because, you have the power to set us free," the woman said, eyes glowing with an otherworldly intensity. "But you must choose carefully. Time is running out." Before Sarah could ask how or why, the whispers from the mirror surged into a cacophony. "Help us! Help us!" echoed around her, clawing at her sanity. The glass shimmered, showing more specific faces now, each belonging to those who had once inhabited this space, all pleading with her, eyes wide with unfulfilled desires. "Please!" A voice broke through her chaotic thoughts, sharper and more desperate. It was a man trapped behind the glass, his face locked in a grimace of anguish. He reached out, fingers pressing against the barrier. "You have to break the curse, save us." Fear tightened Sarah's chest like a vice. Curses. What had she stumbled into? The temperature dropped sharply, frost creeping across the concrete floor. The woman stepped forward, her voice now urgent. "Whatever decision you make, you must make it soon. It's not just your fate at stake." She pointed toward the staircase. "They're coming." And then she saw them, the shadows, dark and swirling, creeping slowly from the staircase, resolving into monstrous forms that taunted her with their barely there outlines. "Please. You have to choose." The woman urged again, her tone urgent, almost frantic. "You can save us all." The stony silence screamed around her, and every heartbeat felt like a countdown. Who should she trust, the dark entity promising help, or the faces that needed her rescue? Would her choice lead to freedom or further entrapment? With breath caught in her throat, Sarah glanced back at the glowing mirror, at the faces entwined in their silent pleas. Time slipped through her fingers like sand. She had to decide. Now. The woman's voice rang sharp against the pounding of dread in her ears, snapping her back to the moment. The darkness coiled closer, pressing against her, an insatiable void eager to consume. Sarah's heart raced. She had one chance left. But what was the right choice? In that split second fraught with possibilities, she felt the weight of their hope resting on her shoulders. The air thickened, and a sharp chill ripped through her. The decision lay heavy before her. Would she confront or flee? Just as she reached for an answer, the basement trembled, an otherworldly howl rippling through the walls, threatening to swallow her whole, and then, everything went black. Darkness enveloped Sarah like a shroud. It wrapped around her tightly, a suffocating embrace that short-circuited her thoughts. She felt weightless adrift in a sea of nothingness, her heart a frantic drumbeat echoing in the silence. But then, an unexpected flicker of light sparked to life, a faint glow just out of reach. As if summoned by her desperation, shadows began to congeal into shapes, each one whispering secrets, each one alive with the pain of the past. Desperation clawed at her throat. Sarah, that familiar voice again, both a lure and a warning. She stumbled forward, the ground beneath her shifting like sand. The glowing figure emerged once more, the woman's face sharper now, revealing weariness etched into the corners of her eyes. "You must listen," she urged. "You have a choice to make, but it cannot wait. He is near." "Who?" Sarah's voice cracked, fear piercing her resolve. The shadows twisted more intensely, curling like smoke around the woman. "The keeper of the curse. He knows you're here." As she spoke, a chill swept through the air, sharper than before. A low growl echoed in the distance, vibrating the ground beneath Sarah's feet. The woman extended her hand, a gesture of both urgency and invitation. "They need your help. I need your help. Choose to fight with us, or they will consume you both." Sarah glanced back at the mirror, its surface shimmering like a film of water. The faces within called to her, their eyes pools of anguish that reflected her own terror. "But I don't know how." "You know more than you think," the woman insisted, her voice rising with intensity. "You felt it your whole life. The echoes of their cries, the dreams that haunt you. It is your blood, your strength. You are unique among them. Trust yourself." The growl grew louder, a deep, menacing timbre that made her blood run cold. She felt the invasive shadows creep toward her like an awakening monster, thirsty for the warmth of her fear. The moment dragged in her mind as she weighed the woman's words against the rising tide of dread. Could she truly summon the strength to face an ancient evil? "Please, choose." The urgency cut through the chaos. The figures in the mirror shifted restlessly, their faces pleading. Sarah took a deep breath, fighting the contraction of panic tightening her chest. "What if I fail?" The woman stepped closer, filling the space with her presence. "It's not failing that you should fear, it's living with the knowledge that you didn't try." There was something in her eyes, an intensity that radiated hope even amidst despair. Another howl pierced through the basement, reverberating in her bones, the sound of something ancient and hungry. Time slipped through her fingers again, and Sarah felt the weight of choices like a heavy stone suspended within her. She turned back to the mirror one last time, the faces shifting and swirling, despair wrapping around her as strongly as the shadows. They needed her. She felt that more than anything. "I will help you," she shouted, clarity blooming within her like a flower breaking through frost. "I won't let you suffer anymore." The moment she spoke those words, energy surged through her, a pulse of warmth shattering the cold grip of the basement. The woman's face transformed into an expression of wonder and gratitude, the shadows recoiling slightly, as if recognizing the power unleashed, but just as quickly, a thunderous cacophony erupted from above, echoing through the darkness. The ground trembled violently. "No. It's him. He is here!" shrieked the woman, her eyes now wide with terror. The shadows around Sarah shifted, dark forms swirling ominously, the atmosphere electric with a foreboding tension. Her heart raced, ready for a battle she didn't fully understand, but she felt the strength of the others in her bones. Then, the figure behind the glass flickered. You have one chance. Fight or fade into the abyss. And just then, the basement door creaked open, revealing a shape draped in darkness, with piercing eyes that flicked towards Sarah, sensing her resolve. There was no turning back now. The moment had come. Would she rise to the challenge, or fall into the very depths of despair she sought to conquer? With a determined breath, Sarah prepared for what awaited as the darkness writhed around her, the air thick with eerie anticipation. But who would emerge victorious in the battle against the cursed keeper? The shadows seemed to writhe, a living entity hungering for Sarah's fear. She felt it, an icy breath on the back of her neck, breathing down her spine. The figure, now fully emerged from the darkness, loomed large, its features obscured yet unyieldingly menacing. His presence was a ripple in reality, distorting the space around him. You're brave, little girl, the keeper's voice slithered through the darkness, smooth like oil but sharp with malice. But misguided. You think your choice matters? Her mind raced. Heart pounding like a war drum, she clenched her fists, grounding herself in the moment. The woman beside her, with her ethereal glow, had given her strength. He underestimates me, Sarah thought defiantly. You think you can save them? The keeper taunted, stepping closer. They are beyond saving. Just embrace your fate, and I will let you forget this ever happened. She felt the cold prickle of dread creeping up her arm, but she wouldn't let it consume her. No, Sarah declared, forcing the words out through gritted teeth. I won't give in to you. Such spirit. His laughter echoed off the walls, deep and rumbling, with layers of darkness that coiled around her. Shadows slithered along the ground, reaching for her like fetid hands. Yet, she held her ground, feeling the warmth of hope anchoring her. I can hear them. I can hear their cries. She yelled, her voice gaining strength. No more silence. No more suffering. With each declaration, the shadows hesitated, momentarily flickering, as if caught off guard. A light glowed fiercely within her, a recognition of her own power, an understanding that surged like molten stone within her veins. Fight with me, the glowing woman urged, stepping closer to stand at Sarah's side. The warmth emanated, meeting the chill head-on. The keeper narrowed his eyes. You think you can wield their pain as a weapon? You think you can challenge me? Without hesitation, Sarah reached for that warmth, calling on the faces behind the mirror. Yes. I can channel their voices. They live on through me. Sarah closed her eyes, letting the energy pulse through her, grounding herself, melding her own voice with the cries of the damned. Hear me. She shouted. I will not let you take them. I am here. Thunder roared above, and the ground shook once more. This is your last chance, the keeper hissed, a hint of fear now lacing his voice. Step aside, or I will consume you both. Her heart raced with uncertainty, yet determination surged within her. She would not waver. With a roar of defiance, she opened her eyes, focused and fierce. I stand my ground. This ends now. But as she spoke, the ground cracked beneath her, fissures of darkness swirling, taunting. The keeper lunged, a shadowy form blending with the chaos. Sarah's breath caught, her vision blurring as she struggled to maintain her stance against the tide of black against her bright resolve. The woman beside her was swallowed for a split second, but she re-emerged, gripping Sarah's hand tightly. Trust. The woman yelled, the echo hanging desperately in the air. Then, from within the shadows, a desperate, anguished scream erupted, a cacophony that flowed through Sarah like electricity. She turned to the reflective surface of the mirror, her reflection merging with the others united. They would not back down, but just then, a horrible realization struck. What if the keeper could manipulate the very shadows that now surrounded them? What if the darkness bent to his will? As the keeper unleashed a blinding surge of energy that cascaded over the room, Sarah braced herself for the ultimate confrontation. In a split second, reality twisted. Everything swirled, and she sensed the thin veil between worlds was collapsing. Would they stand united against the keeper, or would they all fall into the waiting abyss? With a final, breathless scream of defiance, Sarah prepared to launch herself into the fray. Would she become the light that pierced the darkness, or would the curse claim her forever? The world around Sarah shattered like glass. Fragments of light and shadow collided, swirling in a chaotic maelstrom. She gripped the glowing woman's hand as the keeper's laughter faded away, only to be replaced by a deep, unending silence. For a moment, everything felt suspended like they were caught in a moment that defied time itself, but then, the silence shattered, replaced by a cacophony of voices. They were muffled at first, whispers of pain and betrayal, rising and falling like a tide. Help us, they cried, piercing through the stillness. Can you hear them? The ethereal woman asked, her voice laced with urgency. They are calling for you, Sarah. You must bring them forth. Sarah felt the warmth of the woman envelop her, a steady flame against the creeping cold. It ignited something deep within her. With a nod, she closed her eyes, letting the voices fill her mind. Images flashed, faces she had never seen but felt connected to, pulling at her heartstrings. The keeper's presence was still there, an oppressive weight that darkened the air. You think their cries will save you? He taunted, his voice now a sinister whisper that echoed in every corner of her being. Your efforts are futile. They belong to me. No. Sarah shouted, finding her voice amid the turmoil. They deserve to be heard. You can't keep them silent anymore. With every ounce of strength she possessed, Sarah unleashed the energy that flowed through her, channeling the voices she heard. I set you free. She cried, pushing against the shadows that threatened to engulf her. The ground beneath them trembled violently, fissures of light slicing through the darkness. She could feel the energy building, a surge like a thunderstorm ready to burst. The keeper's form wavered, his expression twisting from mocking disdain to stark fear. You don't know what you're doing. He snarled, as the darkness surged forward, a black wave crashing against her resolve, but Sarah stood firm, the glowing woman beside her becoming a beacon of light. Together, they raised their hands, calling out for the lost souls, their cries now forming a symphony of urgency. We are here. We remember. As her voice harmonized with the others, the shadows hesitated. They flickered, the darkness momentarily parted. A strange glimmer of hope began to seep through, illuminating the room with a pale light that began to overwhelm the keeper's dark energy. This can't be happening. He bellowed, his voice laced with desperation as he tried to counter her growing power. The light intensified, filling the fractures in reality, and with it came a wave of warmth that spread through Sarah, igniting every part of her being. She pressed forward, pushing against the darkness. You cannot claim what isn't yours. Suddenly, a deep rumble echoed as the world around them began to crack, fissures widening, threatening to consume everything. The keeper's form writhed, morphing as the balance of power shifted. No! He shouted, but it was too late. The light grew blinding, and in an instant everything collapsed. Sarah gasped as she found herself standing alone in an empty void. The glowing woman was gone, and the voices faded into silence. Her heart raced. Where were they? Had she failed? Then, she felt it, a cold, clammy hand clasping her wrist, tugging her into the darkness. She struggled, panic surging through her as the keeper's low, mocking laughter echoed in the shadows around her. You thought you had won. This isn't over, not by a long shot. Sarah felt her strength ebbing away, a sense of dread forming in the pit of her stomach. She had to find the light again, but the deeper she was pulled, the fainter hope became. What was the keeper planning? Why was the darkness not finished with her? And as her mind reeled, that icy breath returned, whispering sinister secrets. Would she ever escape the clutch of his malice? As she prepared to fight back, the darkness thickened, tightening around her. She couldn't back down now. The battle was far from over and the keeper was waiting. The grip on Sarah's wrist tightened, the bone-chilling chill seeping into her skin. She twisted and turned, her breath quickening, each gasp becoming more frantic. Panic clawed at her throat like a desperate creature, fighting to escape. It was the same cold that wrapped around her heart, reminding her of just how vulnerable she truly was. "Let me go!" she shouted, but the words echoed back at her, lost in the dark. The keeper's laughter grew louder, an oppressive wave crashing over her resolve. "You're only prolonging the inevitable." His voice slithered through the shadows, a guttering flame flickering out. "You can't escape me, Sarah. I am your darkness." With a sudden spark of defiance, Sarah wrenched her arm free. The cold withdrew for a moment, and she stumbled backward, trying to regain her bearings. The void around her pulsed, an almost living entity, like it was watching her, lurking just beyond sight. "Where are you?" she called into the depths, her voice shaky but resolute. "Show yourself." Triumph faded as stillness surrounded her once again, pressing in like a heavy fog. And then, from the depths of that silence, a figure emerged. The keeper coalesced from the shadows, his face twisted in a grotesque mockery of a smile. "Is this what you want? To face me head-on?" His eyes glinted with malice, a darkness deeper than any void. "Yes," she shouted, trying to ground herself against the rising tide of fear. "I want to let you win." The shadows lashed out violently, the very air crackled with tension. He moved closer, confidence radiating from him, and for an agonizing moment, she felt doubt creeping in. She could feel the weight of their confrontation wrapping around her, tightening like a noose. "You think you fight for light?" he jeered, his voice dripping with venom. "You are just a vessel for failure. Do you even know why they called for you?" The voices, the lost souls, flashed through her mind, mingling with the keeper's dark illusions. Were they calling for her help? Or were they setting a trap? Just when she thought she understood her purpose, his words unraveled her thoughts like threads pulled from a fabric. "Stop!" she cried, clenching her fists. The struggle burned in her chest. "You want to turn me against them. I remember their cries. They deserve freedom." With renewed fury, the air shimmered as she reached deep within herself. An ember of light flickered against the encroaching darkness, expanding and bursting forth like a supernova. The shadows yelped, retreating for a moment before swirling violently around her, desperate to extinguish her growing fire. "Futile!" the keeper shouted, but the tremor in his voice hinted at his fear. "Your light won't hold. You can't save them." "No!" she thundered, fighting against the encroaching tide. "I can't save them alone. But together we are more. I set you free." As those words spilled from her lips, a chorus of voices echoed back, united with hers. The energy surged within her, crashing like waves against the shore. With every breath, she felt their essence intertwining with hers, filling her with a strength she had never known. But just as the light began to reform the very fabric of her surroundings, the keeper's eyes ignited with a furious blaze. "You think this is over?" he hissed, his form convulsing under the pressure of the light. "You have no idea what is yet to come." In an explosion of darkness, the keeper erupted, scattering shadows in all directions. The ground quaked beneath her, stone and light battling for dominance. Just then, a flash of memory ignited her mind. Those faces she didn't know. Who were they really? The light flickered, and in that heartbeat, Sarah's resolve wavered. Panic gripped her as the shadows shifted closer, wrapping around her feet, threatening to drag her back down into despair. And then, silence fell once again. The emptiness stretched, leaving her heart pounding in her ears. Whatever lay ahead was darker than she could imagine, and the keeper's words twisted in her mind. What truth had she missed? As shadows loomed around her, the specter of desperation clutched at her mind. She had to hold on, to fight, but for how long could she stand against the endless dark? The answer awaited her in the shadows, and she knew the real battle was just beginning. The silence was smothering. It pressed against Sarah's chest, making each breath feel like an uphill struggle. She could still feel the remnants of the keeper's icy grip brushing against her skin, a relentless reminder of his presence, his power. The darkness wrapped around her like a thick shroud, swirling with whispers in a language she did not understand but felt deep in her bones. "Who are they?" she whispered to the empty void, desperate for answers. The echo of her voice seemed to stir something deep in the shadows, causing the temperature around her to drop further. Then, a flicker of movement caught her eye. A pair of luminous eyes emerged from the murky blackness, piercing and unyielding. They blinked, slowly, watching her like a predator toying with its prey. Sarah's heart raced as she tried to anchor herself. "Show yourself," she demanded, clenching her fists. The darkness stirred, shaping into a figure that emanated a haunting familiarity. It was a woman with flowing hair that danced like fire against the shadows. Her face was obscured by a mist, but Sarah felt an odd tug of recognition, a connection that both comforted and terrified her. Sarah, the woman's voice was soft yet filled with authority. "You must heed the call. They need you." "Who?" Sarah hated the uncertainty, the way her heart ached with each unanswered question. "Who needs me?" The figure stepped closer, the shadows reluctantly parting like a curtain to reveal the woman's features, etched with sorrow, yet radiating an undeniable warmth. "Follow me if you wish to uncover the truth." Before Sarah could respond, the woman turned and stepped into the darkness. Without thinking, Sarah rushed after her. The shadows whispered around them, their voices a cacophony of despair and longing. She felt a gnawing dread, but also a pull of hope. Could this be a way out? "Wait!" Sarah called, desperately trying to keep pace. "Are you one of the souls I'm meant to free?" The woman paused and looked back. "I was once. But now I am a guide, one who has seen the paths you have yet to tread." "Paths? What do you mean?" Sarah was close enough now to see the woman's eyes glisten with unshed tears. "There are layers to this darkness, Sarah. Each layer holds fragments of memories, souls yearning for release. You must understand their pain to wield the light effectively." As the woman spoke, visions swirled around Sarah, faces of people she hadn't seen in years, their eyes pleading, filled with regrets and dreams unfulfilled. Her heart twisted painfully. "Why can't I remember them?" The guide took a step closer, her voice low and urgent. "Because the keeper has buried the truth beneath layers of fear. You haven't just come to free them, you must also free yourself from the chains he's wrapped around your mind." "What do I need to do?" "You must confront the keeper, not just with light, but with the weight of your truth, your memories. Only then can you carve a way through the darkness." Confidence surged within her as she understood. She had the power to reclaim her past, to confront the keeper's lies with the very truth he sought to bury. Yet, as determination swelled, a chilling realization swept over her. What if the memories were more painful than the darkness itself? Before she could voice her worry, a thunderous crack shook the ground, and a wave of dark energy rolled toward them, pushing Sarah backward. The keeper's laughter resounded, chilling her to her core. "Foolish girl. You think you can take them from me?" Suddenly, the shadows closed in, thick walls of darkness threatening to engulf her. "Run!" the woman shouted, her figure blurring into the darkness. "Face him. Discover what you must." The shadows lashed out as Sarah stumbled back, her mind racing, her heart pounding. What lay beyond the abyss? Would the truth set her free or lead her deeper into despair? She had no choice but to push forward. Sarah took a deep breath and stepped into the oncoming storm, steeling herself against the darkness. She felt the pulse of the memories around her, the cries for freedom echoing in her heart. And then, an explosion of light erupted around her, illuminating the shadows as she screamed, "I am not afraid." But was she truly ready to face the keeper? The answer lurked just beyond the horizon, waiting to unveil its secrets. The moment hung like a heavy fog, palpable tension thickening the air around Sarah as she confronted the darkness. The keeper's laugh reverberated through the chaos, a chilling sound that echoed through her bones. He stepped forward, shadows flaring around him like a dark cape. You think you can wield their pain against me? He taunted, voice dripping with malice. You are nothing without them. I'm everything because of them. Sarah shot back, feeling that ember inside her spark to life. With that declaration, the memories surged, swirling around her like a tempest. Each face that appeared, each whisper of a tragedy from the past, fueled her spirit. She felt their pain, their sorrow weaving through her, knitting her resolve stronger. The keeper flinched, eyes narrowing as the chorus of souls momentarily filled the void, ghostly voices chorusing her truth, together. A pulse of energy crackled in the air, summoning the light that had flickered within her. Sarah stood firm, resisting the encroaching darkness. You want to play games? She declared, fists clenched, conviction lightning in her veins. Let us dance. With renewed strength, she raised her hands, summoning the memories to converge. She could feel them, each soul no longer trapped but gathering to form a shield around her. The keeper recoiled, shadows now flickering like flames caught in a wind. You foolish girl. You think you can summon their spirits and defeat me? I won't just defeat you, she cried, and as the words left her lips, she felt the heat swell within her, illuminating the shadows around her. I will end this madness and free them. The tempest swirled, blending reality with memory, pain with promise. She thrust her palms forward, unleashing a torrent of light that shot through the room, piercing the darkness around her. A collective cry echoed as the faces of the lost surged forward, bolstered by her determination. You are free. The very ground shook as energies collided, the keeper's form twisting and distorting under the force of her light. No. This isn't how it ends. His voice, once booming with authority, trembled now, despair leaking into his tone. Shadows writhed, shrinking from the light, contorting into dark tendrils, reeling against the illumination that Sarah commanded. With one final surge of energy, Sarah's heart thudded powerfully as she summoned the last reserves of her strength. The faces of those lost, the cries of those forgotten lit her resolve aflame. You will not take them. Her voice pierced through the chaos, becoming a battle cry echoed by the souls behind her. A blinding flash erupted, saturating the darkness with brilliant light as it exploded outwards, consuming the shadows in its path. The keeper howled, charred by their defiance, desperation clawing at his grip in vain. You'll regret this. But as his shadows were swallowed, Sarah felt the liberation of the lost souls, their cries shifting from despair to triumph. They surged toward the keeper, reclaiming their power, binding him with chains of light. The darkness began to dissolve, unraveling like frayed threads. You're nothing without the chains. He screamed in the fading echoes, but the truth was finally washing over him, pulling him into the abyss he had created. In that moment, Sarah knew he could never harm them again. As silence enveloped the room, the light began to dim, and the air grew still. Sarah stood there, breathless, the remnants of the battle settling like ash around her. She closed her eyes, a sense of peace washing over her, having felt the weight of despair lift from her shoulders. Thank you. A gentle whisper floated into her awareness as the souls shimmered, their gratitude palpable in every heartbeat. She could see them now full of life, free from the shadows that had haunted them for so long, and then, light sparkled around her, and one by one, the faces began to dissipate into the ether, no longer longing for freedom, but finding their peace. In the stillness, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of completion. The basement no longer felt like a prison but a canvas where histories could find their resolution. She stood tall, exhaling deeply, ready to step back into the world above, leaving behind the remnants of a dark curse. Broken, climbing the stairs back to the office, she felt lighter, the shadows no longer a threat but just a whisper of past memories restored. The sun shone brightly above, illuminating her path ahead. Goodbye, she whispered into the air, hoping they would hear her gratitude, and with a smile on her face, she walked free of the darkness into a new beginning. Before she reached the office door, she turned back to glimpse the basement one last time, a sense of closure settling. It stood silent now, a protective cocoon for all the stories once lost in fear, a promise that the light would always find a way to fill the spaces of the darkness left behind. This was the moment she realized, she was no longer just Sarah, a newcomer afraid of the shadows. She was a guardian of light, stronger, braver, and ready to face whatever life soared into her future. Now, as she stepped out into the world, she knew much had changed, and for each beginning, there arose a singular truth: fear may linger, but hope will always outshine it. And that is the gift of this journey. Don't wait another moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on future exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help more amazing tales reach hearts like yours. Flood the comments below with your reactions and theories about Sarah's brave journey to freedom. We want to hear from you, and listen up, you need to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to be inspired by this conclusion. Spread the light and help us grow this community. You're amazing. Thank you for being part of this journey.